Okay. All right. What are we starting with? Was someone coming over from finance?
Yes. Mr. Chair, you have on your desks a reprint for Senate Bill 902. You are secondary on this bill. On the reprint, generally speaking, this bill deals with establishing a program under the Partnership for Workforce Quality program that focuses on cyber, cyber-related activities, workforce development, apprenticeship programs, and cyber, and providing, training and scholarships for various cyber careers. There are some amendments that Finance adopted just now. They're on your desk. The pertinent part to budget and tax begins on page 6 of your reprint. The bill establishes a special fund from which to, the purpose of which is to basically provide funding for the program, as I just described. There are a couple pieces of language that Finance just struck. The first thing that they struck was initially, as introduced, any unspent scholarship balance that would normally go to the need-based account would instead have come to this fund, so Finance has struck that. Towards the bottom of page 6, Finance also struck an intent statement that would have basically declared the intent that $25 million of any federal assistance would be used for this purpose. So in terms of funding right now, there is no mandate to put any money into this cyber fund. It is as provided in the budget. The fund does have some limitations in terms of how much can be used to administer the program as opposed to actually going out the door to recipients.
So no money, just a new fund.
Correct.
All those in favor?
Oh,
you got a question. Sorry.
I have
Lots of questions. Okay.
Yep. Mr. Chair, I had a question. I guess it's page 6, line 4, number 4. Could you just explain or give an example of an application or another fee paid to the cyber program in connection with processing a request for financial assistance?
I do not have one. I think the way it would depend on how the program is set up, because it does provide services to the private sector, but the bill does not specify any sort of fee or charge.
So if they were, I'm assuming that these groups, companies, people, if they needed assistance, they're going to be able to go to Department of Commerce. The Commerce is going to charge them some form of a fee?
Yes, let me make sure it's the Department of Commerce. No. It's definitely the Partnership for Workforce Quality Advisory Board. So it's not Commerce directly. Well, the board is kind of a separate entity. Let me see. Let me double check. I'm sorry, it is Commerce, and there is a report that needs to be done.
So Commerce is giving us a report. Is the fee in the report? And the only reason why I asked the question is because obviously we're not saying what the fee is. I'm assuming they're going to say the appropriate amount of the fee. But somebody needs to manage them or just making sure that the fee doesn't.
I mean, the bill is silent as to those particulars, but one would presume that in order to set up the program and run it, that they would deal with that. But the bill is silent as to anything dealing with that.
In the report, do they talk about the fee? Are they going to be coming back to us? I'm assuming they're reporting back to us or no?
I mean, there's nothing specific asking for that information. Obviously any sort of information request of the department can include that, but in terms of requiring that to be provided, it's not in the bill.
Where's the report that you were talking about?
So the report is page 4 of the bill. So you can see lines 10 through 12, and that cross-reference to 2.5109 is the consolidated report that's required. And then it says, to whom the report would be submitted is lines 16 through 19.
Got it.
But the contents of the report are not specified.
Senator?
Who's the report going to? Us?
It would, let me see, I've got that code section right here to double check that. I believe so.
Well, I guess it's these 4 people right here on 16 through 19. Maybe they're the ones that got
Well,
oversight of
that's
this
in
group.
addition to what the statute says, and the statute says, yes, the governor and the General Assembly is the standard recipient for the report that is referenced here.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator King?
I probably sound like a cranky person here. If there's no money to support this bill, why would we just do it? Why wouldn't we just hold off and put the bill in when there's money to do it?
There's a priority right now. Someone has a priority.
Okay.
One minor thing, if I may, Mr. Chair, the Finance Committee kind of did a voice amendment to the reprint that's in front of you. On bill page 6, line 17. They would be striking the 2 words "money in" and instead substituting "annual funding to." So this is basically saying that 10% of any money going into the fund, as opposed to money that's already existing in the fund, would go to use to analyze and identify workforce needs. So it's these amendments plus that voice, that change.
Did you not have a question any longer, Senator Roosevelt?
No, I couldn't my line up.
Okay. Senator Eckert?
Thank you very much. My question was the same as Senator King's was, but my other question had to do with, this is establishing a brand-new sub-fund within an existing workforce program, correct? And so my question is, if private contributions can be made to the fund, then they could go ahead and operate to a certain extent, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And then my other question was, are we putting more demands on this bigger board so that if there are any funds there, it gets diluted and limits the possibilities for traineeships or mentorships, or what is it, apprenticeships, or?
So the way that the bill is set up is the fund is, it establishes this new cyber program, and then the fund is there. A new fund is created specific to that.
I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So it's establishing the new program,
Right.
and then creating a new fund, which would be used to fund the program. So it should be, fenced off from any other programs in terms of potentially diluting stuff.
Okay, but, so, if there's no money, nobody can do anything with it, and it's just it's a template, right?
Yeah, and to your point too, from the very bottom of page 5 and up through the first third of page 6, this lists,
Right.
how the fund would be capitalized.
Right.
So yeah, it's anything from the budget, anything from the federal programs that are made available, as you noted, private contributions, any fee, interest rate. So, to the extent that money comes from any of those sources, and then of course the usual catch-all that we use for boilerplates on line, for boilerplate language for creating a special fund is line 10.
Right, but if there were federal funds that were targeted to this, we would be in a position to receive those and use those to get something going, correct?
If the governor chooses to appropriate such funds into this fund.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to ask, I guess, if you could do like a voice vote to some type of clarifying amendment in that report that they at least comment on the funds. It talks about the operation and performance, but it doesn't really talk about the fund. Either we do the fund overall, or point number 4 is my thing that I'm concerned about. And I want to make sure that you understand why I'm concerned about this. There are agencies that currently exist, state agencies, that treat some folks different than other folks in there, and trying to get to the bottom of it with that one. I think that we still have, this has that potential. I'm not saying that it is going to exist, but it does have that potential. I think that as oversight, we have to continue to watch those types of things.
All right, let's hold this for the moment, and let's do the next bill.
Is that 883?
Yes.
Senate Bill 883 just passed third reading in the House. This is the bill dealing with the issue for the out-of-state premium cigar and pipe tobacco sales. There was an issue that came up since it went over to the House relating to the definition of other tobacco products, including pipes and hookahs from the legislation last year, which would inadvertently make them subject to the 53% excise tax. The House did some amendments. So I passed out the amendments in the House. So you have a committee amendment, then there was a floor amendment making a technical change. I've also passed out the reprint of the cross-file, which should be what all these amendments will look like as a bill. But basically what they do is they take the filters, pipes, hookahs, and rolling papers out of the excise, out of the definition of OTP, so they wouldn't be subject to the excise, and move them into the 12% sales tax category. And then there's a provision at the end of the bill making this retroactive back to when that would have taken effect, I think March 14th, as a hold harmless, and then the bill is emergency, so the new rate would apply whenever the bill becomes effective.
Do folks understand what's going on here? Okay. So remember, this bill was all about correcting or clarifying something so that that the taxes could be collected appropriately, both primarily from the online sales. We had already said that last year, but there was some confusion about it, so that's how the bill originally came in. Then as we were going through it, there came up this issue of these various pipe tobaccos, hookahs, and rolling paper, a couple other things that in the bill last year were all subject to a 53% excise tax. And what the House has done is, instead of taxing all those things which sort of direct consumer products, if you will, they asked if we could just change it to a double sales tax, so at 12%. So 12% sales tax, no longer any 53% excise tax. And the excise tax that has already been paid for the last couple of months since the veto would be reimbursed to those individuals for that. End of the day, bottom line is they're saying, let's do a sales tax instead at 12%. Senator Alfrith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, I'm biased, and I think Senator McRae's bill last year got it right. We've also gotten some feedback from the American Cancer Society and Heart Association that they oppose these amendments. But I guess my question to Philip, if we change from an excise to a sales tax, is that going to impact, the number will impact the cigarette restitution fund, but the mechanism for where this money will go, is it going to be impacted by the change?
Yeah, these items previously were not subject to the excise tax. So even on the 12%, it should be, I think the intent of the House amendments is to not make these items subject to something they weren't subject, but then also take.
I thought they were subject to the excise
This is
tax.
a confusion.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I thought they were subject to the excise tax.
These items were not previously subject to the excise tax?
So these items were only taxed at the 6% sales before?
Yes.
Oh.
But the way the legislation from last year was written, it had them as an includes in other tobacco products, and so they got scooped into the excise tax.
Oh, so they weren't specifically identified,
Yes.
so there was some confusion as to what
Yes.
classified as other tobacco products.
Correct. Yeah, the definition of other tobacco products last year, or in the bill that was passed this year in the veto override, modified the definition of other tobacco products, and so the includes clause, I think, created the issue here.
Okay, so items 2 through 5 just have been left out of this part of the code, and the House is attempting to put them, because they were not defined as OTPs before, the House is trying to put them into the 12% sales.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So in other words, at this point, the excise tax wasn't even being collected on it. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
However, to the degree something was collected, they get it back?
Yes.
Because what's that?
Yes, yeah, so because under the veto override, since that was effective, the excise tax would have been in effect. So there's a provision that allows a hold harmless for a refund for anything that would have been paid.
What do you think of this? Senator McCray?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Phil, are you saying that were they overall or they just weren't specified in last year's bill?
Last year's bill, they were specified in an includes clause, but previously they hadn't been designated.
Last year they were specified, and what was the reason that we specified them versus in previous years?
I'm not sure, I don't recall I don't recall that being specifically discussed.
Got it.
Go ahead.
Now, I was just saying, I think that we took a policy choice. Last year, we specified them inside of the bill, and we made that decision to move in that direction. I think that the goal was to cut back smoking in reference to our young people and from the health, from Marylanders just in general. And I think that we got it right last year. And I'm not sure why this is in front of us at this moment, so.
Okay. Well, because it was sent over to us. I mean, I think I thought I had it a minute ago, but now I'm a little confused, to be honest with you. What's that? Yeah. Go ahead, Senator Elfreth.
I think I got it, and Philip, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so up until the veto override, these 4 products from 2 to 5, so filters, rolling papers, pipes, and hookahs, were being taxed at the 6% sales tax. After we passed the bill and overrode the veto, they got folded into OTP, but I mean, it wasn't specified. We just said other tobacco items. These weren't listed in the OTP section before.
They were listed in an includes provision
In an
the
includes
OTP
provision,
definition.
okay.
They were
so-
listed in a what?
In an includes provision in other tobacco
Includes-
products.
Includens?
So we have the definition of OTP, which is cigars, premium cigars, pipe tobacco, chewing tobacco, snuff, and snus. Actually, I'm sorry. Other tobacco product is product intended for human consumption or likely to be consumed, whether smoked, heated, chewed, absorbed, dissolved, inhaled, or ingested. This is on page 3 of House Bill 1324, reprint you have. That contains tobacco, nicotine, or a component part used in the combustible product. And then you have other tobacco product includes cigars, premium cigars, pipe tobacco, chewing tobacco, snuff and snus. And then you have filters, rolling papers, pipes, and hookahs.
So they've only been subject to that 53% excise tax since we overrode the veto until
Correct.
now. The House would like to roll that back to what we put the electronic smoking devices at 12% sales tax. That's,
Correct for
Okay.
these 4 items.
I understand it.
Okay?
Thank you.
Is it, you understand, but how do you feel about it?
I feel like I'd like to sleep on it.
Okay.
For a week or longer?
Senator Eckert?
So it's a tax decrease for those
Well, it's
products,
complicated.
but it was,
Yeah, it probably is. Remember, the basis of the excise tax is different than the basis of the retail
Correct.
cost. So it's not the easiest thing to come up with.
or explain.
Correct.
Thank you.
You want to move inside bill? Where we go?
Want to hold? Yeah. Talk amongst yourself for a few minutes. All right, we're going to hold on the tobacco products one, and I'm going to ask that, I know both Senator McCray and Senator Elfreth were very involved in this last year. It was his bill, and she was the floor leader. And if you could talk to your counterparts on the other side, who were those folks last year, and see if we can get some sense of where we're going. The problem with this other bill, the nature of the original bill, we'd like it clear and done with, because otherwise we may not be getting all of the taxes that we believe we need to get. Based simply on the way the law is, and that was a simple clarification. This one a little more complicated. On the other bill, is there a motion on that bill? Okay. Move in second. Senator McCray?
And my concerns, I'm going to talk through with the bill sponsor at this time, and I'm going to be voting in support of the bill.
Okay, very good. All those in favor of the bill? The cyber bill, it's 902. Okay, very good. Thank you all, appreciate it.